Welcome to the Modco podcast. Conversations about life, organization, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. This show was created to provide motivation, inspiration, and a reminder to give yourself grace. Here, we are transparent, non-judgmental, authentic, and love to have fun because sometimes you need to laugh at yourself. I'm your host, Angel. Sit back and get ready for valuable tips, resources, laughs, and more. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you've been hanging around for a while, welcome back. And I hope you brought a friend.
Welcome to another awesome and exciting episode of the Marco podcast. Be sure to grab some food and drinks and just chillax.
Today, I am chatting with Chris Leonard. Chris is a Nashville-based consultant and coach. He builds high-performing teams and gets leaders out of their own way, heading towards the business and life they really want. Everyone, let's welcome Chris. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Angel.
You are very welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So you are the second guy to grace his presence on the Modco podcast. So thank you
Oh,
so much for that.
Oh, I'm excited. I can smell the testosterone flooding in.
I love it. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we get started?
No, I'll just try to remember to leave the seat down.
We greatly appreciate that. So I feel like if my 9-year-old can remember to do it, I think that you can do it. So,
I got you.
all right, cool. So Chris, how long have you been an entrepreneur and how did you get started?
Yeah, I had a weird journey to being an entrepreneur, and I'll get to the music part of my life in a little bit. But I think the main part of this that I want to talk about is how I discovered agile coaching and project management years ago as kind of my second career path. And ever since I discovered coaching, I kept meeting people who were really insightful, really smart, and dealing with great clients and really helping them in a big way. And most of the people who were doing a great job at it had a private practice and were promoting it through speaking engagements and things like that. They were very active as thought leaders and authors and things like that. And I just always thought, probably in the last quarter of my career, I'm going to go do something like that. Like probably after I've really gotten experienced enough and smart enough and learned enough and really proven myself at this, I'll go start a private practice. And then, I was going through a job search and a lot of things weren't going well for me. And out of nowhere, my first two clients just sort of landed in my lap. I had two different clients from didn't even know each other who just came to me and were looking for what I know how to do. And when these clients landed in my lap, I just said, I think the universe thinks I'm ready now. I'm 41 right now. I imagined I would start doing this sometime in my 50s. And
Okay.
so it took a little while to convince myself that I really was as ready as my clients seemed to think I was. And it was a scary moment taking that jump, but I'm so glad I did it. It's been a really exhilarating journey to build my practice from the ground up, figure out how to market myself, and start really asking for what I'm worth from clients who are doing things that I want to be involved with, as opposed to just taking what the universe throws at me. So it's been a really exciting journey. My coaching practice really helps my clients with getting out of their own way, as you said in my intro, but also building high performing teams. It's really hard to take a group of raw hires who have never met each other and don't know each other, and maybe some who have been with the business forever and think they know everything, along with other people who know a lot that nobody inside the building knows, and form this bunch of people into a cohesive unit that trusts each other, cares about each other, can help each other, and knows exactly what to do to help each other. Just to build those cross-trained skills where they can assist and support each other and rely on each other. It really goes a long way toward making a team resilient, high functioning, high performing, and effective. So I love helping clients with that. But my clients really range from big businesses with lots of teams that need my help, all the way down to solo entrepreneurs who are starting to take those little baby steps into delegating for the first time. I love all stages of that because everybody's got a little bit of something to learn along the way. And seeing my clients succeed is the most fulfilling part of this whole business. I love it.
Okay, cool. And you've said something that a lot of people say that, it takes them a little bit of time to be convinced that this is what they're supposed to do. They think that maybe I'll do it later on down the line, or I'm not quite ready for. And other people see it and they're like, you should be doing this. Why aren't you doing this? And you're just like, oh, I don't know if it's right. And in your mind, you just have to get out of that. You're stuck in your own head. And I know for me, I feel like, okay, well, I have to do this, and first before I can get there. And sometimes you have to do that, but you might need to get there first and then work your way backwards a little bit, depending on what it is. And I just hear so many people say that about themselves. So I guess that's another thing that all people who are business owners or entrepreneurs, we all kind of have in common is that we're unsure of
Yeah.
ourselves sometimes.
Look, I think everyone had an experience early in life. Almost everyone. I mean, this is the most universal thing where they weren't let into the club. Somebody thought they didn't look the part, they didn't sound the part. People like this don't do things like that. You're not
Yeah.
qualified to do this. Get out of here, kid. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. We've all experienced it in some way or another, some people more than others. And sadly, it's just very universal, and some people really experience it pretty hard. And that little nugget gestates and turns into imposter syndrome. And it's something every adult carries around to some degree or another. And it manifests itself in 1,000 different anxieties that we have. But the biggest one is the one that tells us we're not qualified enough yet. We're not experienced enough yet. We need to prove ourselves first and pay our dues first before we deserve to have the life we want. We got to stop listening to that voice. I have two favorite ways of handling imposter syndrome that I talk to my clients about because, again, it's universal. Everybody has this, especially small business owners who are just getting started and may be having to brand themselves and market themselves with thought leadership, showing off their expertise. And they may be reluctant to talk about themselves as experts because they just don't feel like they deserve it yet. So I have these two strategies I give people. The one is to just realize not only do all your heroes not only have your heroes all experienced this just like you have, everyone you admire who's doing what you do has been through this, has felt this way before, but believe it or not, they probably still do. You know, if you're a guitar player, there's a pretty good chance not only has Keith Richards felt like he wasn't a good enough guitar player to be sharing a stage with the likes of Jimi Hendrix, but he probably still sits there thinking, I'm not that good. Why did I end up here? Why isn't somebody good doing this? You know, there's a great story of when Tom Petty was doing a tour. The recording artist Tom Petty was doing a tour, and his drummer fell through on him. And at the last minute, he called Dave Grohl of, formerly Nirvana and the Foo Fighters, asking him to play drums for him on this tour. And Dave, I'll spare you the French here, but Dave Grohl said back to Tom Petty, "What, couldn't you find a good effing drummer?" So even people who you imagine to be like at the top of their craft or who are admired by all their peers, they have this imposter syndrome just like you do. So that's the first challenge. The first method I use is to realize that. And then the second one is you got to learn how to laugh at it and how to joke about it openly with the very people that you're probably worried about getting approval from. I recently had to do a talk on AI and project management. Am I a thought leader in AI on project management? Absolutely, I'm not. But my client needed it, and they really wanted their members to know about it. So I did the work and I figured it out, but I still felt like I really wasn't expert enough to do it. So what did I say? I started the presentation with a slide that said about me, and the visual of the slide was a crowned emperor in boxer shorts and no shirt leading a whole bunch of people through a town on a parade with soldiers behind him because the emperor is wearing no clothes. Hi, I'm your naked emperor here to serve you today. How can I help you? We got to be able to joke about this feeling because we all have it. And the sooner we talk about it, the sooner we can all get past it.
Yes, I agree. That was one of the hardest things for me to learn how to do was to learn to kind of joke about it and to kind of laugh at myself about things. But I used to get embarrassed super easily. Like these
Me
slightest
too.
things would embarrass me. And now, since hosting a podcast, I've honestly learned to laugh at myself, even sometimes in my podcast. Because a lot of times for the most part, I edited my shows myself. Sometimes I have someone else help me with editing. But
Mhm.
when I'm editing, I just don't feel like it sometimes. And I'll say something, I'm like, oh, yep, I'm leaving that in there. And I'll just correct myself because when I hear myself say it, especially if it's a solo episode, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going back and editing that out. So you kind of got what you got. And it just makes me laugh. And it takes the expectations, it takes the awkwardness out of the situations because most of the time you're overthinking it and no one else actually cares. You're probably the only person that cares, or that
Right.
that's thinking that everyone else is like, what are you talking about? Or I remember a perfect example when I used to make shirts. I was such like a perfectionist with my shirts, and I made one for someone, and there's a little teeny spot on it. And I texted him, I was like, I'm so sorry. There's like a little spot on the shirt from where I pulled up the heat press too quickly and like made a little smudge. And I sent her a picture of it. I was like, I'm gonna send you this one, but I'm gonna make you another one. And she was looking, she's like, where's the smudge at? And I was like, you don't see it? And she was like,
It's all I can see.
no. I'm like, you don't see that big smudge there? And she's looking, and like 10 minutes later, she texts me back and she said, are you talking about in that little corner over there? And I was like, yes, see, I knew it. I knew you could see it.
Yep.
She said, Angel, it took me 10 minutes to find that. No one's going to see that. I do not care. Well, do you want me to refund you your money, like part of it or
Right.
something? She was like, no, it's fine. I was like, oh, I mean, I guess so if you say so, but it was me in my mind, in my head, like freaking out about it. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to send out, this bad product or that doesn't look good. And she's like, I couldn't even tell what it was that you did. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we're in our
Totally.
heads. Yeah.
You know what I tell my clients a lot? One of my first careers, we'll get into this even more, but like one of my first careers was as an audio engineer and music producer. And I've probably made a couple dozen albums with various clients over the years, and I still pursue it as a hobbyist. And consistently, the blemishes that make an artist the most self-conscious, especially about their voice, are often the very things that their fans find endearing and that make them
Mhm.
fall in love with a song. And so much of the time as a producer, I found myself begging artists to leave in the little things that they felt like were flaws, but were actually just personality.
Right.
And I think every small business owner's got this. The things that make you weird, that make you feel like you're unqualified, the things that make you feel like you don't look or sound the part or that you stand out too much, those are the very things that actually make you the best at something. Those are the
Mhm.
things that make you uniquely qualified to serve the people that only you can serve. And the sooner you learn what those are and embrace it, the better. I think a lot of us
Yeah.
got here professionally by having to fit in various environments along the way as we figured out our craft.
Right.
But in a professional environment, fitting in means shaving off your rough edges. It means making everything safe for work. It means being very, very quote unquote professional, whatever that means in your context. And to transition from acting that way to making your own brand, your own mark, your own niche is a total mindset shift because you've got to go from fitting in to standing out, and you can't do both at the same time. And so embracing what makes you weird, maybe even embracing and flaunting those things that make you feel self-conscious and vulnerable, that's really where your magic is.
Yes. I love it. Embrace your weirdness. Like,
Embrace your weird, fly that freak
embrace.
flag.
Yes, embrace it. That may very well be the title of this episode,
I
and
love it.
we we do have to embrace it because like you said, it's what makes you stand out. It's what makes you unique. We're not all meant to be alike and do the same thing. So be you and stand out. And no one, most of the time, people don't even care. And if they do care, so what? Let them care. Like, just be yourself.
You know, I'm going to go back to another music industry story. So one of the things I loved about doing concerts was that feeling when you go past the security guard into backstage. That was
Mhm.
like every time I did that, I had this little rush of, "Ooh, I made it." And then I realized something that I think is actually a universal, which is half the time these guys weren't paying attention. They were on their
Mhm.
phone, they were looking at a pretty girl walking by, whatever, or they were just really into their lunch. And half the time they may glance at your lanyard to make sure you're supposed to be there, but most of the time they don't care who you are, who you're with.
Right.
And here's the lesson. The gatekeepers either don't exist or don't actually care as much as you think they do.
Mhm. I agree. And I think little kids are kind of like like the security guards there. They just don't care. Like little kids don't care. I mean, have you ever I mean, anyone out there has seen, a little kid in the middle of February in their Halloween costume out at the store, or, with two
Nope.
different shoes on, or mix match styles. My son is good for it. He will put his shirt on backwards. He will put his pants on
Right.
backwards. And we're like, dude, your shirt's on backwards, your pants on backwards. He's like, I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, put your clothes on the right way. They do not care. And usually other kids will just embrace it and they're just like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I don't care either. But we as the adults were like, what is wrong with you? You're gonna look weird. Like, but they don't care. And we just need to adopt that attitude about it. And yeah.
Oh yeah, I found myself yesterday begging at my oldest to not pull down and unzip his dinosaur costume to pee on the playground while eating fruit snacks. Because that is a 4-year-old in a nutshell.
Oh,
And if we could all just be that 4-year-old in the dinosaur costume, maybe minus the public urination,
yeah.
but definitely with the shamelessness, I think we'd all be a little bit better off.
I agree. We definitely would be. Yeah, minus the public urination because that is definitely frowned upon. But
Yeah.
be the 4-year-old in the dinosaur costume. Like, who cares? I think last year my son was a Ninja Turtle. He got his costume like September. He wanted to go to the store in his Ninja Turtle costume. His dad was like, no. I was like, let him go. Kids wear costumes in the store all the time. And one year we went to a Halloween party. It was a kid's Halloween party. And at first mom was like, oh yeah, everyone's dressing up. So I went out. I was all excited. I was like a princess or something. I had my little tiara and my wand, and I had like this little tutu and all these tights and everything. And I was all excited and I was
Yeah.
there. And none of the other parents were dressed up. I was like, I thought we were dressing up. She said, oh yeah, I ran out of time. I didn't have time to put on a costume. I'm like, so I'm the only adult here dressed up. Years and years ago, that would have embarrassed me and I would have freaked out. And I usually always have like extra clothes in my car, and I would like went to my car and changed. But I was like, whatever. I paid for this tutu. I paid for these tights and this wand. I'm gonna rock this. So that's what I
love it.
did. I embraced it, and you have to embrace it. You have
Yeah,
to.
totally.
Yeah.
We got to embrace our wacky side, or else like we're just gonna bore everybody to death.
We are, and nobody wants to be boring. Being boring is not fun. So do you be you. Right, so, Chris, in our coffee chat, you told me how you've talked a little bit about like being a producer, being on music tours and stuff like that. But when we talked before the show, what really intrigued me was you told a great story of how being in the music industry actually made you realize that you needed to pivot in your career. What happened and what made you realize that?
Yeah, I was out with this artist, and I was probably on the 30th date of this tour, and she was opening for somebody much bigger. It was a huge, huge outdoor show, and as so often happens, I'm waiting for us to sound check. And if you're the opener, you sound check last. And so I was waiting for the headliner to finish sound checking, and they had a very long sound check because usually the opener gets like half an hour, and the headliner gets like 3 hours, as much as time as they want to sound check. That's how it
Right.
goes. And I think they were sitting around waiting for the star to come out and do his mic check. And I was talking to the monitor engineer. For the uninitiated, that's the person who mixes what's in everybody's ears. They sit side stage usually. And so they get a great view at the show. But they also have one of the more high pressure jobs. And I was talking to this guy. He was where I wanted to be. He was in his early 60s, and he had finally gotten out with this big household name. He was probably making in the mid six figures finally, which is absolutely astonishing wealth in the music industry. Like, you got to be at the tip of the iceberg to be making six figures, let alone mid six figures. So he was doing pretty good, and he was down to only working about 100 dates a year, which is pretty good. Which means you're only away from home about 150 dates a year, which is also really good. So I thought, okay, this is what I want to aspire to. I'm going to pick this guy's brain. So we were shooting the breeze as he was waiting for the star to come out, and I realized I don't want this guy's life. He was estranged from his kids. He didn't have health insurance. He was still paying off a lot of debts from back when he was living hand to mouth. He didn't own his home. Nothing against getting divorced if that's the right decision for you, but it had happened to this guy 3 times, which is something I don't want to go through 3 times. And honestly, his life was just kind of a mess, and he was not happy. He honestly really just regretted taking this career path as far as he did, and he felt like he wished he had found an exit in his 30s or 40s, so that he could make other decisions with the last part of his life. He was tired of the road. Everything that had attracted him to this career path had really lost its luster for him, and that's when I realized I knew a lot of this guy. When I looked back on the people who were where I imagined myself being, I put the pieces together and realized a lot of these guys were like him. A lot of them had lives I wouldn't want. And I'd say about 19 out of 20. The 20th one had a great family life, was like financially stable and healthy. And I could imagine myself really being happy about being there in my 50s. And then the rest of these guys, I didn't want their life. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to beat those odds. Like, maybe, but probably not. Those odds are really against me. And I've had so much fun, and I've crossed off so many of my bucket list items in this career path. Maybe I should quit while I'm ahead. I have other aspirations, other skill sets, other things I love doing in life that I have been putting off investing in because they didn't fit this. And so I dusted those off and started reinvesting in them. Project management was a natural thing for me. I'd gotten some work during the recession as a project manager and scrum master, so I dusted that off and remembered what it was like to go deliver software projects with people, and found that there was a whole lot of it that I really loved. My dad, when I was growing up, had actually been a small business coach, kind of like what I'm doing now. And I sat through a lot of his conference calls without realizing I was learning anything. He was working from home in the 90s, back when nobody was working from home. And so I'd be sitting there doing my homework or playing video games or whatever while he was on the next computer right next to me in the room working. And I learned so much from that. And his passion for helping those types of people was contagious, and it rubbed off on me. And so now here I am, by honestly no intent of my own, following in my father's footsteps, doing something very similar with my life to what he did. And I think the lessons there are two. One, that next step for you isn't probably learning something that you've never tried before. It might be. I don't want to talk you out of it, but it's probably returning to something that you put down because it didn't fit the vision that you had for yourself at some point in your life. It's probably getting back to some part of you that you thought didn't fit in, or that you thought wasn't going to be your future. And then second, the things that formed you, the experiences, the exposures that you had early in life to different passions, different talents, whatever, those have shaped you in a profound way, whether you realize it or not. Whether you went into a career that had anything to do with the sorts of people you spent your childhood around, well, there's probably a lot of latent insight, skill, talent, and understanding that you have about those things that sooner or later will intersect with your professional calling. And when you are able to integrate those things together, your past experiences, the passions that you've let go of throughout your life, with your professional calling that you're pursuing right now, you've got a secret weapon in your arsenal when you combine those three ingredients, because nobody else has that combination. Nobody else can do that with that set of insights, experiences, and talents that you bring to the table. And when you've synthesized those things, that's a powerful secret weapon that nobody can replicate, that is going to be a godsend to somebody who really wishes there was someone like you out there. How are you going to find them?
I like that. I like that. I love that you realize that you needed to pivot because, that was one guy that you talked to. And then that made you realize that there are a lot more people out there who had followed down the same path. And I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of more people out there who they just got comfortable, as people say. They got comfortable and they didn't go back to what it was that they put down, because the guy that you just said, he was making mid six figures. That's a nice chunk of change there. And so to go back to something that you put down that may be making you, low six figures or five figures, high five figures, you have to think about adjusting your lifestyle and all the changes that are going to come along with it. And some people would rather just stay where they are because they're comfortable. They already know, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm working 100 days out the year. I'm going to get this bid 6 figures. But if I go back to the unknown, I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to have to work 200 days out of the year? Am I going to get my bills paid? And so you get stuck in that
Mhm.
spot. And then you look up and your whole life is just gone. And you're like, what did I do? Why am I still here? And for you to be able to kind of see that and see that guy as your future and realize right then and there, or maybe I don't know how long it took you if it was right then that it clicked for you, if it was a week or a month later, but for it to click and be like, okay, no, this isn't what I want, and let me get out now. Like
Mhm.
that's amazing. That doesn't happen for a lot of people. Even if it clicks for them to be like, okay, I
Mhm.
probably need to get out, they still don't do it because they don't want to leave that comfortable spot. And then they do wake up 30 years later with that regret. So kudos to you for being like, nope, I thought that this is what I wanted. And also for not being like, okay, I thought this is what I wanted. Yeah, he's telling me this is what's happened to him. And now that I think about it, I can name 20 other people that this happened to, but I'm gonna be the one that it doesn't happen to. Like,
Mhm.
kudos for you. Congratulations to you for being like, nope, I'm gonna go ahead and exit stage left. Now I'm not even gonna give it, I'm not even
Yeah.
gonna give it the opportunity to try to manifest it or to see how
Yeah.
much longer I can do this. And then if I can reel myself back in from it. So that's
Well,
awesome.
I think what fueled me was realizing that there could be something even better on the other side, and
Yes.
that a lot of the things I had sacrificed to be where I was, I could now reimagine. I had
Mm.
said, I'm probably never going to have kids. That was just part of my self-conception. I was like, I don't want to be the dad who's away 200 dates a year and never sees his kids. And so I'm not going to put kids through that. I'm just not going to have kids if I stay in this career path. Well, when I started to imagine, well, maybe I'm not going to stay in this career path forever, my wife and I sat down and thought, well, wow, having kids actually would be kind of fun. We've actually done a lot of travel at this point. We've done a lot of the things that you want to do before having kids, and it's
Right.
still not too late. Okay, maybe we can give this a whirl if you do this. And we kept going down the line and thinking, life on the other side of this change could be really good. I mean, in
Mm.
my case, it was like I could be making more money than I am right now because I wasn't where my interlocutor was. I wasn't making the kind of money I wanted to, and I was working way harder than he was. And so immediately, like, switching career paths was probably more lucrative rather than less. And I think for a lot of people, actually, it is that way. Most people, your first year out on your own shingle, you make a little less than you did the year before, working for someone else. But then that second, third, fourth year is a lot better, and sometimes by orders of magnitude, especially if you have something that scales in a digital way. And so, honestly, it was thinking about the family I could have, the income I could have, the kind of work hours I could have, and the health I could have. I mean, it might be something different for somebody else making a career pivot, but for me, those were the four things I came to that made me say, like, wow, this could be so much better. And, I've talked to some other people since then. I went out on the occasional tour date still when the phone would ring. And I've talked to a few people who maybe had jobs that might be somebody's dream job. One guy who probably went out last night in front of 2,000 screaming fans playing guitar. And you might think that sounds like the perfect job. Well, that guy asked me in a bus late one night how I did it and how I got out, because he doesn't think this is his future either. And he can see his hairline receding, and he can feel his body starting to give up from all the travel, and he thinks, I don't want to still be doing this when I'm 60 years old. This isn't sustainable for me. And he sees himself missing the things that are the milestones in his kid's life, and he hates it. And he thinks, well, man, how do I build a second career? How do I even imagine this? And for a lot of people, that's hard. But I gave him the same advice I gave y'all. uh, it, Go back to the passions that you left behind and the things that you grew up around, your values, and then what matters to you most, and understanding who you are. That is the hardest part of starting your own business. That is the part you got to get right, or you're going to be swimming in circles for the rest of the time that you do this thing.
Okay. I like that. And you made the decision that was best for you, best for your family, best for your
Mhm.
future. And now instead of seeing drunk adults pee in inappropriate places. You get to watch. You get to see you get to talk to 4-year-old
Uh-huh.
in inappropriate
Exactly.
places. So kind of. So you still get a little bit of that life there. Like,
Yeah.
oh, don't do that.
Oh yeah, still the craziness and the belligerence, and still witnessing all sorts of indecent behavior. But at least it's
Yeah.
children now, and we can give them a free pass once in a while, right?
I saw something one day and it was like, toddlers are no different than like your drunk best friend or like your drunk friend or something like that. I was like, and then they
100%.
show the like comparison to it, and it's like trying to put them to bed. There's talking and there's singing and there's. I was like, oh, maybe that does sound a little familiar
Oh yeah,
there. So
oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh goodness. And you have two kids. Well, two kids. There are four, and you
Yeah.
said two is the other one. Okay.
2
Okay.
and 4. The
Two.
4-year-old's going to be 5 in about a week. I'm really excited for him. Not nearly as excited as he is, though. He thinks he's getting every toy in the Amazon catalog that just came out in the mail.
Really?
Oh yeah, he
Okay.
thinks he's getting everything.
Everything.
He is sure that he's sure that everything he's asked us for all year long is going to just magically appear in his house when the 29th comes around. And sorry, bud, I'm not going to be that way.
That's yes, not how it works there, buddy. But you hold on to that hope there. We're gonna
Right.
we'll take it away from you on your actual birthday. Like we won't take it away from you before
Uh,
then, but you hold on to that there.
right. He'll be
Oh,
so tired and overwhelmed by the end of his birthday, he won't know the difference anyway. You know how it goes.
oh yeah.
And how many kids do you have?
I just have one. I have one son. He just turned 9 on the 3rd of October.
Oh,
So
nice.
yes, and he was really sweet for his birthday. Like people kept asking him what it was that he wanted, and there was just this one thing that he wanted, and my best friend had told him that she would get it for him back in June. So he was perfectly
Oh,
fine with that. Everyone else was like, "Hey, what do you want for your birthday?" He was like, "Just hugs, just
oh,
hugs. I just want hugs." I'm
stop.
like, "Oh, that yeah." I'm like, "Oh, that's so sweet." He's like, "And I just want to go." He's like, "Just go play mini golf and hugs." I'm like, "That's all? You don't want anything else?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh." Okay then. So, all right. Everybody's like, well, what should we get him? Like, he said he wanted hugs, but of course, like his grandparents and stuff still sent him money. I was like, well, he technically said he didn't want it, and I'm the adult here. I'll take whatever it was that you
Right.
you wanted to give to
Oh,
him since he doesn't know what to do with it. But
but gosh,
yeah,
bless him. That is so wonderful.
he's usually like really sweet like that. He usually doesn't really ask for a whole lot of
Uh-huh.
stuff. Yeah, like Christmas time, he'll usually ask for one big thing kind of for Christmas, but other than
Mhm.
that, even he got his report card here like a week ago, and
Yeah.
my husband's parents, like, well, what do you want for making good grades? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't need anything. I'm good. I'm like, dude, yeah, I'm like so different. Oh, okay, I
Oh
guess
yeah.
so.
My
So
my 4-year-old, I'm telling you, he has like 5 trash trucks, and he wants another trash truck for his birthday. It's like how much garbage do you have to pick up, buddy?
yeah, right. Yeah. What we did, we went through a monster truck
Oh yeah.
phase here about
Oh
a
yeah.
year or two ago. I think he was completely obsessed with them. I think he had about 30, and then he did have everyone out looking for, let me say he didn't have everyone out. He mentioned to his grandparents and his aunt that there were certain ones he was looking for, and they took it upon themselves to be on the hunt for these and search for these to
Uh-huh.
make sure that he did not ask for it. They did it on their own. So
Oh, that's great.
yes, yes, but I love it. I love that your kids like, I'm getting everything on this Amazon wish list, and
I'm just so glad he's so optimistic. I lost that optimism somewhere along the line. I usually go into my birthday expecting for the whole world to have forgotten. But they
forgot
remember every year, it turns out.
it. Well, see, everyone, we care, Chris. When
That's
is your
right.
birthday?
2nd of December, same as Britney Spears, both on the
Oh,
exact
okay.
same day in 1982. So
Oh,
two
wow, that is
two
cool.
legends of the music industry, all on the same day.
See, there we go. See, now how can we forget that, Chris? We can't forget
Yeah,
it.
right.
You're also a December baby too. That well, my birthday is
Mhm.
like 3 weeks after Christmas, so but it's not the same as being in December. So
Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
Sagittarius represent.
Oh no, Capricorn. Capricorn, we better. But
Okay,
I'm not gonna
okay.
I'm not gonna get into it with you, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say Capricorns are better.
I wish I knew what characterized the Sagittarius. I honestly have no idea. Uh,
Yeah.
I
I
have
love a
many
lot of
esoteric
Capricorns.
interests, and astrology just hasn't made the cut yet.
It
Maybe
hasn't made
someday.
the cut yet. Okay. Yeah, I don't know a lot of Sagittarius, so I can't help you out with that one. But now that you said it, I'm gonna have to like go look it up and see so I
Yeah,
can
right.
familiarize myself with it a little bit.
Yeah, that
Well,
way I can finally go around saying I'm such a Sagittarius.
I'm such a Sagittarius. Yeah, I'm always like, yeah, I'm definitely a Capricorn. It's no getting away from it.
You got to be able to blame astrology for when you make a mistake, right?
I blame it all the time. I'm like, oh, guess it was just the Capricorn in me. I'm like, oh, and then I tell people too, I'm like, there's a difference between December Capricorns and January Capricorns. Like,
The January Capricorns are built different, huh? I get it.
yes, we are built way differently. And it's funny because I actually know someone who is a Sagittarius. And I take that back. I do know someone who's a Sagittarius, and she acts kind of like a January Capricorn. And so
Yeah.
for the longest time, I was like, she she should have been a January Capricorn. I was like, 'cause she just does not act like a December Capricorn at all. I've never seen a December Capricorn. And then I found out because I think her birthday is actually like the 3rd of December or something like that. And I found out she was a Sagittarius. I was like, oh, okay, because I was getting really concerned over here about this.
You found your Rosetta Stone. You finally understand your friend after all these years.
Yes, I was like, okay, because I was like, this is not December Capricorn behavior at all. Like, it's just not.
I love it.
Well, Chris, I have enjoyed this conversation. It has been so much fun from talking about what we talked about astrology, and then learning
Yeah.
about you pivoting your goals and talking about your son and his dinosaur costume and all of his other shenanigans that he has going on.
Didn't think I'd be sharing that one today, but here we are.
Like I said, it's just, the flow of the conversation, however it goes, it's cool. I love the authenticity of it. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we go today?
Look, I always like to tell listeners whenever I'm on a podcast, if you're involved in a business or even a cause that needs to help teams or leaders get out of their own way, I'm here to help. I really, really love to see the world changed by teams who love what they're doing and care about it, and help the leaders who support those teams make them the best that they can be. I think the world needs more of that Ted Lasso spirit in it, and I am here to give that wherever it's needed. If you know a cause that needs that, I'm interested in helping out anywhere that needs that sort of thing. You can always set up a free consultation with me at noimpediments.com. You can also find me on Instagram at noimpediments and Facebook impediments. I share a lot of good advice. The same stuff I share with my clients, I'm just giving away for free on social media anytime you need it. This week, well, when I'm recording this, it's late October, so you won't be hearing it right now. But this week, I'm talking all about delegation and hiring. And so if you're struggling to give stuff away and delegate it and figure out how and what to, well, I got a lot of good advice on that because I've walked so many clients through it successfully. I give this stuff away all the time. So hit up my social media and you'll learn a lot. And you might even laugh a little bit. I also do some speaking. So if you've got an event coming up that needs a good keynote, or you just need a good workshop put together to help train your people on something they need to know better, I am down for it. So anyway, thanks so much for having me, Angel. It's been just a terrific conversation.
You're very welcome. Yes, it has been a great conversation. I'm so glad that we got connected. And yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
been a fun conversation. But I'm gonna look up Sagittarius stuff and I'm gonna send it over to you so you can know what's going on and why you act the way that you act. So,
Please, I'm ready to finally understand myself at last. Well, thanks, Angel.
you're welcome. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Are you loving the Modco podcast? Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and review. This helps others to find the show and gets the show listed in the recommendations section. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode and that you're able to gain something from it. Talk to you next time. Thank you to Chris Leonard for the music for this week's episode.